Good morning, Steelers, and welcome to this game of Charlie Don't Surf. Now, this is a game I've been wanting to play for a long time. I've had the rules for quite some time, I'd say a couple of years I think at this point, and I've been over the last year working on the forces for it. It is a Too Fat Lardies Vietnam game, company level Vietnam game. It's reasonably old at this point. This is the 2010 edition. I don't know if there was any early editions of this, but it is part of Too Fat Lardies history, in that I think it was the first game that they ever actually wrote, or at least, you know, the very first iteration of it was the first game that they wrote. But it didn't get published for years afterwards. It's kind of very similar to I Ain't Been Shot Mum, the Second World War game, which I really love, so I'm expecting a lot for this. Very similar mechanics in it. It is a slightly older Lardies game, but it does check out, and of course obviously it's set in Vietnam, of that conflict of 10-20 years or however long it went on for. What I want to do in this is basically give you a demonstration game. The guys over at the Armchair Dragoons have already done a Charlie Don't Surf game, so they've stolen my thunder, but it was nearly a year ago, so I think I'm okay to do it now. But go and check that out as well. That's a long one that they play on Tabletop Simulator. Mine's going to be slightly different because it's going to be on Tabletop proper, and I am playing the same scenario that they played, and this is from the Surfs Up supplement. This I had printed. It is in PDF version on the Too Fat Lardies website, and we are going to be playing the Great Rice Hunt, which is scenario 1. It's basically an introductory game for scenario 4, the game itself. It really just has a company of Americans versus a smaller company of PAVN, the People's Army of Vietnam. So basically, it's an asymmetric game in that the PAVN have to basically get off the table, so they've got to evade the Americans whilst also causing some damage on them, but the Americans have also not only got to root out the PAVN, but they've also got to try and find some rice and weapons caches which are going to be held around in this village here. But we'll talk all about that as we go on in the game. So as I say, very nice in that it is asymmetric, and also the forces themselves are quite asymmetric as well. So what I will do is I'll show you the forces, I'll talk about the cards. Because this is the first game of this introduction might be quite lengthy, so you could probably, if you want to, jump forward to the actual action, but we can talk about the game in a little bit more detail as we talk about the forces and the cards and the blinds. Then I'll get set up, I'll show you the table, and we'll crack on, and we'll see if Charlie Don't Surf. Okay, so first of all, here we have our forces. So we've got our US company over here of US infantry. So these are broken up into 3 platoons, 1, 2 and 3. They are headed up by a lieutenant, I think it is, commanding them, so he's a big man. They also have a big man in each of their platoons. These are quite low level though. He's a level 4. These are level 3, so similar to I Ain't Been Shot Mum, they have levels of them, and it's between 1 and 4 basically. So this guy is a level 4. This guy next to him is his FOO, so a forward observer officer. Then each one of these platoons is made up of a 10-man squad, rifle squad, 3 of those, and then also a weapons squad as well, made up of 9 men, but these have got M60s in them, so these get an extra dice when they're firing, and that's the same for all of those. So it's basically four sections, or 4 squads should I say. We're Americans. They are also, as I say, commanded by a chap here, sergeant probably, I don't know. No, he'd be a lieutenant. This one up here is a captain, I guess. Tell me in the comments. And the other guy over here is he is their medic, so each one has a medic as well, because there could be anytime there are casualties on the American side, they roll to see if the medic needs to come and help them, but that's all. Not roll, sorry, they pull a card potentially. I've also rolled off table as well. You roll for each platoon to see if they get any extra big men, and the only one that did was this guy over here, so he's an NCO. He's down at level 1 though, so he's just in with those. The 2 casualties you can see here are just in case those medics pull those cards, those casualty cards. We're over on this side as well. You can't really see them on the screen, but there they are. We've got blinds. The Americans have got 5 blinds, 4 of which each one of these companies is a blind, and then they also have a dummy as well. I'll talk about how I'm going to use the dummies later on the thing, but we've also got the PAVN blinds as well, you can see here, and these ones, they have a blind for each of their platoons, and then also 3 dummies. So the PAVN That's these guys over here. These are made up of 2 regular NVA platoons, so that's these guys here and these guys here, and these are made up of 3 9-man squads, so these are quite small compared to the Americans. They also have a local forces platoon, and this is made up of 2 8-man squads as well. They have poor fire discipline, these ones, and they also have archaic weapons as well, so they actually lose a D6 when they're firing. They are commanded over here by this fella down here. Their big man, he's a level 3 actually for the Pavan, and they also have, no, he's level 2, even worse. But they do have a commissar as well who can reduce shock. I went off table, off camera. I rolled for their extra big men, and they got 1 extra big man for this platoon over here, and he's a level 1. They also have a weapons team platoon as well, which is made up of an MMG in a bunker and also 2 LMGs. Now you could have put these into 1 10-man squad with 2 LMGs, but I've split that down into 2 bunkers with the LMG itself. They've also got the rice caches here, so these are going to be placed somewhere in some of these buildings on the table. Unbeknownst to the Americans, they're going to have to try and search for them and see if they're there. So what we'll have to do, because again I'm playing it solo, I'll probably roll the dice to see if there is one. There are 4 buildings potentially on the table, so what we'll do is, you know, we'll roll for it. If one appears in the first one, then one of those is going to be a dummy, if you know what I mean. It's not going to have anything, but we'll roll the dice for it. The other thing you can see here as well is we have the card deck. Now we only start, this is like I Ain't Been Shot Mum. Looks like quite a big card deck to start with, but it actually isn't. We only start with the free blinds and free world blinds and the communist blinds moving, and also civilians as well. They will move later on when things start to happen. We do have a timeout card which ends the turn, so it's a bit like the tea break card in I Ain't Been Shot Mum, but unlike in I Ain't Been Shot Mum, this doesn't actually go in until the first shots are fired. So while everybody's on blinds and not doing anything, we just use the 2 cards for the blinds to move around. But we have other cards, so we've got Communist Poor Fire Discipline, we have this Tien Len, which is a human wave, Didi Mao, which basically allows the Pavan to go back onto blinds, or even split up into dummy blinds as well, which is quite a nice card. I'm not sure how that's going to work solo, but we'll get there. But they've got Commissar card, then they've got obviously the platoon cards, then they have this support card, then they've got their big man 1 and 2. We've got the critical wounds, and we've got 3 of these in here. Now these will be mixed in, because what happens is if a free world unit or US unit takes a kill and this card is pulled straight after that, then they have to get their men to an LZ and do an extraction by helicopter. I've got some helicopters, so they will come in. So basically the medic has to take them, and they have to find a spot to land a helicopter in. So that's going to be quite interesting, kind of forces them to do something. So then we've got also our big men cards here. These cards I got from Arts Cow. There's quite a few different sets of cards for Charlie Don't Surf, but these ones are there. I just bought them. I think there's 2 separate sets that you'll need to buy for everything for Charlie Don't Surf. But yeah, you can see we've all basically just got the other thing here is authorization. We are not in a free fire zone, an FFZ, because we're near a civilian village for the US. So basically, if they have a fire mission for their artillery support, if they want to bring it in, they're going to have to play the authorization card or draw the authorization card before they can do anything that turn. So it's basically it might banjax them a bit, and then of course with the civilian move. So they're the cards. These are the forces. What I'll do is I'll put the dummies, the blinds onto the table, and then I'll show you the table itself and the various other bits and pieces that are involved there. Right, so what we have here is the small hamlet of Gok Wan. We've also got, I mentioned them previously, we've got civilians, so we've got some over here by the buildings, another set over here by the buildings, and then we've got a couple working in the paddy fields here in here. So quite a big open area. The Americans are doing an arrowhead sweep, and they're going to be moving into the table from this side over here. Meanwhile, the VC, they are doing an evasive scenario, so they are starting here, and they can't start 12 inches close to an edge, basically starting a box over there, and they have a tactical edge which is over here as well. Now in the actual game, the VC player isn't supposed to reveal where the tactical edge is to the American player, but obviously it's a solo game, so it's a bit difficult for me to know that. But basically they've just got to try to get men off here. If they do, then they get political points for it. If they come off either edge, other edges, if they go off the opposite edge, there's more chance of them getting captured by the Americans. If they get off these sides, there's less chance of being captured, but their main goal is to kind of move off here. They also have to as well have a couple of surprises, so ambushes as well if they can, on the American forces, and also try to cause 33% casualties on the US as well as part of their mission. So quite a big ask, but you know, the communists will keep moving. 1966, by the way, if anyone's interested. Meanwhile, the Americans, they're starting on this table edge over here. I've kind of piled them up because they are going to be coming in arrowhead formation. So the first two here are going to be moving in, and then the other three will follow them on in the following turn, basically. Now, what I have done is I know where the platoon commands are, so I know that that's the VC one, and I know that the one here at the back in the centre is the American one, because I didn't want to get them mixed up and then push them, you know, really out forward. But what I've done is I've shuffled the rest of the blinds. One of these is the support blind, one of these is a dummy blind for the VC, so I've shuffled those two. I don't know which is which. Same over here, there's a couple of blinds in here, but three of them are the platoons as well. Same with the Americans, I've shuffled up the platoons and the dummy, so I don't know which is which, just so it makes things a bit more fun and interesting on my part, adds that little bit of friction. So with that in mind, let's play our first turn and see how we get on. So as I said, the deck basically starts with the two cards. It's the two blinds cards. As platoons get revealed or more things happen on the table, things will be added to this deck and make it a bit more crazy, shall we say. So let's just see. First card up is the communist blinds move. So now they have 4 action dice with which they can move, spot, or deploy, basically. I think at this point they're just going to try to move as fast as they can, and we'll see what happens with that. So basically I've left the support platoon over here because they are going to be in bunkers anyway, so they're not moving. Meanwhile, the rest of the unit has basically just moved up as far as they can through the jungle and the broken terrain that they're moving through. So they're kind of moving through the village at the moment, like I say, to try to get as far down that table as possible. And then of course, obviously, our next card is going to be the free world blinds move. So these are coming onto the table, so I'm going to take off a dice for their movement for that, but because they're on blinds, they still get 3 dice to move with. Okay, so the Americans managed to get their men onto the table because they're coming through the jungle. It basically slowed them down quite a bit. Now, that's the end of the turn. However, this is my first little bit of confusion, because he says on the timeout card, if there's anybody that you can potentially spot, so for example this blind and this blind here are within 9 inches of one another, so potentially should be able to see each other, but you have to actually do it as an action as part of your turn. Because we don't have a timeout card immediately yet, I'm not going to allow the automatic spotting rules to take over. They have to actually specifically spot them, otherwise these are too busy trying to find their way through the paddy fields. These guys are too busy trying to find their way through the jungle itself. So I'm going to leave the automatic spotting off for now. They'll do it if they do it as an action, but that's obviously going to reduce their number of dice that they've got to do anything else with. So with that in mind anyway, I'll just literally go back to shuffling those cards up, draw the next one. First one it's the communist blinds move. So again, I'm going to move these off camera, but let's just see how they get on with it. Okay, so the communists have moved forward. As you can see here, they've kind of got about halfway across the table at this point. There's various bits and pieces getting through the village. So the Americans are going to have to come round here and now start to cut them off if they can, using their heavier firepower to slow them down and pin them a bit. Meanwhile, we've got this communist unit over here is going to try and spot these American units over here, this blind should I say. So basically we start with their action dice. They have 4 action dice. It costs them 1 action dice to spot, and they can add those other action dice onto that spotting score with a +1 for each dice they use. So they're going to use all 3. They are trying to spot these guys in light terrain, they are between 9 and 24 inches away, so they automatically need a 9 up on the dice. These have got poor bushcraft, so it actually increases that or decreases that down to an 8 or above. Plus they're going to use their extra 3 dice as well to spot, to add another 3 to it. So basically looking at a 4 up on 2d6. Let's have a look. We've got a 5 and a 1, so that's a 6. So we then reveal, and that is platoon 3. So I get these put on the table. They basically appear on the blind, within the blind's area, but we now know that there are an American force coming up that river to try and cut off the communists. Okay, so these guys have now been spotted, so I've put them on the tabletop. So we've got the 3 squads, 1, 2 and 3. We've also got our commander and our medic in there, and the weapons team as well. Now, because we've now put in the 3rd platoon, or platoon number 3, we actually add in a load of cards as well to the deck. These don't get drawn this turn because we're still part way through a turn, but they'll get shuffled into the deck in the end. The American unit that's just arrived will operate on the blinds cards for the Americans, so they still get a chance to do something, and they operate with 4 dice no matter how many dice they have anyway. So what we've actually put in now, if we've got dust off, because that's connected to our medic, we also have a free world ammo shortage. This comes up if they roll 3 6s during any firing should I say, that will then and they roll that afterwards, and they have an ammo shortage. So if they draw that afterwards, they have an ammo shortage. We have the medic, obviously. We've got our free world big man number 3. We've also got 3 world platoon number 3 as well, and then I put in the critical wound cards as well in case anybody takes any hits at this point. Shooting hasn't started yet, but it might do, so we're still not using a timeout card. So I'll just draw this next card. Obviously what it is the free world blinds move. So again, I'm going to move these off table and we'll crack on with that. Right, so first of all, I've moved American units here and there, so I've moved these up first of all, and then I'm going to try to spot with this unit that's actually on the table. So these guys are going to try and spot the communist blind here, and I'm also going to try and spot with the ones here in the jungle against these ones over here as well, so we can then potentially put some fire down on them from the platoon that's already on. So I'm just going to use 1 dice for these guys first of all, so it's only one of their action dice, but we're still using 2d6. Those communists are still about 9 inches away, so we're looking at a 9 up because they're in light terrain, but they have good field craft, so that takes them up to a 10 up, unfortunately for the US. But they are using their big man to spot, so that gives them a +1, so that takes them back down to a 9 up. So we'll try that first. This is our first action. That is an 8, so they haven't spotted. So they'll try again, and let's see if that works. It's actually not a big man that's spotting, is it? So it's a 9 up. So their second action is a 9. They have actually spotted that communist blind. So let's see what it is. Fingers crossed it's not a dummy. I don't actually know. And it is platoon 2 of the Pavans. So what I'll do is I'll get them on the table. This means that these guys over here have used up 2 of their actions, so they can then fire with the other 2. Then we've got the rest of these to move and things, so I'll get them set up, and then perhaps there might be a firefight. So quickly, just to show you here, I've added in the cards for the communists. So we've actually got a civilian move. The reason for that is I'm going to start firing, so the civilians are going to start moving, so they'll be moving towards the buildings from the fields. We've got the timeout card in because again they're going to start shooting. Communist ammo shortage for that rolling 3 6s in firing. They've also got the Tien Len, which is the their human wave card, the Didi Mao card, communist second platoon, and also because they've got their big man in that communist platoon, big man number 2 there, and then we obviously go back onto everything else. So they will all get shuffled together for the next turn when that starts in a second, once I've done the firing from the Americans. So we've got the first firing of the game. I'm going to start with a weapons squad over here. They've got 2 actions left, so that gives them normally 2 dice of firing, but they also add an extra one because they're a weapons squad. They've got those M60 GPMGs. They are in effective range firing at that first squad over there. Now, similar to I Ain't Been Shot Mum in Charlie Don't Surf, you have it's either a great, an okay, or a poor shot, and you decide, basically, you generally have an umpire who will decide this, or you decide it between the players. In this case, I'm going to decide it. I think this is an okay shot. They're firing from pretty open terrain in the paddy fields into basically light buildings, or light fences. So it's a pretty okay shot. That if they were firing into the jungle, I'd say that's a poor shot. So we roll the dice, we add them together, and then that gives us our how many hits they've taken and if they're suppressed or pinned. So let's have a look. We have got a 9. So that's 3 hits but no suppressions or pins. So then we roll for our hits. And this is slightly different to I Ain't Been Shot Mum, in that 6 is killed, 4, 5 is shock, 1, 2, 3 is a near miss. So we'll roll for those hits on that first squad. That is 1, 1 and a 3. So that is, sorry, knock that over. So a 1 and a 3. That was a 1. So that is no effect from the first tranche of firing. But we've still got the rest of the platoons to fire. So I'm going to fire with these ones. I'm not going to allow these ones at the back to fire because there's too much happening in front of them. So we've got another one over here. Because they are operating on their blinds, they're still getting those 4 dice activation. They would anyway at this point because they haven't lost any men, but we have, I'm just going to roll for these. Same again, it's going to be the same. It's an effective range and it's an okay shot. So we roll these. Oh god, right, this is where this comes in now. Normally, well, hang on a second, I'll talk about this in a second. So we've got 3 6s is 18, plus the 5 is 23 on that firing. That has caused 6 hits and a suppression as well. So I'm going to use these red markers here just to show the suppressed. I don't have any actual suppression markers, but then they also take 6 hits as well. And I'll come back to that 666 in a second. Put that there to remind me. So they've suppressed them, and they have caused 1 shock as well. So I'll put that shock on and tell you what a suppression does. So I'll put the shock on here. They've only taken 1. This is very similar to I Ain't Been Shot Mum. It just reduces the number on their firing dice when they're firing, so it's a -1 already. I put the suppressed marker on as well. Now this is slightly different. When you're suppressed, you are suppressed until the end of the turn. It comes off on the timeout card, or tea break card as it actually says in the rules. That's obviously a cut and paste mistake there, but it comes off at the end of the timeout card. Now the timeout card hasn't actually been drawn yet, so that may or may not be that's going to be till the end of the next turn. Basically that's going to come off. Now the 3 6s over here that I mentioned, so we've got them here. If the free forces, if when they fire subsequently they pull the ammo shortage card straight after that firing, they are then short of ammunition, which means they can basically only fire with a maximum of, and it's the entire platoon as well, they can only fire with a maximum of 2 dice and also at close range as well. So they've used quite a lot of ammunition already, just blasting away those communists and not really doing a huge amount of damage to them. So that's that might put the kibosh on these firing for a bit, but we'll just see what happens with them in future. Right, I've still got some more spotting to do, I just remembered. So we've got a bit more American spotting to do. I'm going to use this blind to try to spot this blind over here. These are in light cover, they did move, so they basically they need a 9 up because of the range. They're 12 inches away, so they need a 9 up anyway. These have got good bushcraft, so that takes it up to a 10. However, they're going to use all of their spotting dice to add into this, so that gives them another 3 on top of that, so that's basically a 7 up. But it is only 1 roll. So let's see if they get it. That's a 7, that's a spot, so we turn that over, and that is platoon 3, the local forces. So I'll get them on the table, and they are going to probably take some fire again from the other 2 squads over here that haven't fired. Well, no, actually there's only 1 squad over here that hasn't fired. So we've got this squad over here, they are firing at this squad at the back here, of course. Let's just see what happens with that. Right, we've also got some civilians quite close by as well, so I'm actually going to count those. I'm going to count 1/3 of the hits on the civilians. They can't tell who's who at this point, so that's why the civilians may get hit. So first of all, we roll our dice, and they are at effective range. Again, I'm going to give it an okay shot because they've all only just appeared. So we've got 10, 13 in total for the Americans. That's 4 hits and a pin as well. So they've at least pinned that squad, which again means they can't move until the end of the turn. But one of those hits, they're going to take 3 hits on the squad and then 1 hit on the civilians. Civilians are going to give them, they can take 3 hits. and I'm just going to record those if they get killed. So let's just see. I'm going to do it on the civilians first of all. They only record the kills, not the shock. So let's just see for the civilians. No, 5. They haven't taken anything, and then I'm going to go with 3 hits on the squad itself. So we're looking at 4, 5 shock, 6 is a kill. 1, 2, and 2, and 1. So no effective fire from the Americans again. Okay, straight back in with the next turn. It's about turn 3, I think, at this point, isn't it? Anyway, I've shuffled the cards off camera. Let's see what we got. Communist Big Man 2. Okay, this is our number 2 Communist Big Man. He's the guy who's over on the Communist rear, basically. He is a level 1, so that means he has 1 activation. He can only activate something within his 3-inch activation range, so he's basically is an NCO. Not sure what he's going to do, because he can't unsuppress the unit that he's close to, but he can take their shock away, so it might be worthwhile doing that, or it might be worth excuse me, getting another unit to move and fire, and I think he's probably going to do that, start putting some rounds down the range, I think. He's attached to this squad. He's got them to move forward. He only used 1 dice for them to move, which basically they moved 2 inches, but he's attached with them, so he's coming with them. Then he's getting them to fire as well, and they're going to be firing at the weapons group down here, the weapons squad, who are in the paddies. It's going to be an okay shot once again, because these are in light cover, and they also moved. But they only have 3 dice action, so they actually turn that into 2 dice because they've taken 1 away for that movement. So they're firing. Let's see what they get. That's a 4. An okay shot at 9 to 18 inch, which is what they're at, is 1 hit on those Americans. So let's just see what they take. And 3 is nothing. Draw our next one. Right, okay, that's Communist ammo shortage. Now, this is the one that I said before. If when they fired they'd rolled 3 6s, obviously they couldn't with the 2 dice they had. If they'd rolled 3 6s, they would then be out of ammunition for that card, and that's the same as the one with the Americans. They are currently waiting for theirs to come up, potentially, if their ammo shortage comes up, but it may or may not. Right, next up, right, Communist 2nd platoon. Okay, so that is back to that platoon themselves. So one of these units has already used its activation dice for this turn, so the other one is suppressed. They can't do anything, but they do have 1 more squad that they can move up and do some firing with as well, see if they can put some more rounds on those Americans. So basically I used 2 dice for them to move forward, to get into a position at least, so they're able to come over here. Now what they're going to try to do actually is they're going to try to spot this unit over here. This is an American blind, so I'm going to try to spot them, and we'll see what happens with that. Those Americans are in light terrain, so it's basically going to be, it's not an automatic spot. They basically need a 5 or above on 2d6, so we'll roll for that. They've got poor bushcraft, so that takes them down to a 4 up, but the target is also stationary and it's not firing as well, so that takes it back to a 5 up. So I think that's it. They're not using any other dice, so 5 up. Double 1, they don't spot them even though they're right in front of them, but they will probably get revealed in the turn of the tea break card, or the timeout card. Right, okay, our next card then is the Communist 3rd platoon. So these are the local forces. One of these is pinned, so they can't actually move, but the other one can do something. Right, before I try to do anything with this unit here, I'm going to try to actually spot with these ones on this blind over here, this American blind over here. So it's about 9 inches away. Basically they're starting with a 9 to spot. However, they're pinned, so that takes it up to a 10, but they are local to this area because these are local forces, so that takes it back down to a 9. They also have this also has poor bushcraft as well, so that takes it back down to an 8, and they're going to throw in their other 2 dice, so they need actually a 6 up to spot on this. This is all they're doing this turn. 5, so they can't spot them either. Oh, very poor indeed. So we're going to try it with the other ones over here. These ones, because currently I don't have any targets to fire at, these have a, what we said, we're starting on a 9. They have, these have poor bushcraft, that takes it up to an 8, sorry, down to an 8. These are not pinned, so it's still on an 8. They're going to chuck in their 2 dice, so that becomes a 6. Plus these are local to the area, so they're now rolling on a 5. So I'm throwing all the dice because I've got nothing else for them to do at this point. 3, even they can't spot them. Right then, next card up is the Free World Blinds move. So this means it's only the blinds, so we'll see what they get up to. Okay, the free world blinds, one has moved up here, they're not doing anything else, they've just come across here to get into a position to try and block that advance by the communists over here, and also to get to that back building over there, because they've still got a mission to do, which is finding rice. This one has come forward and taken up position where that one was before, and then finally this one over here, this one I know is the CO, so I'm just going to keep them on blinds for now. I'm going to keep them at the back. This one over here, I'm going to actually reveal it. We're going to see what it is. I don't know if it's a dummy or not, but they're going to just reveal. It's Platoon 2, so I will get them on the table, and that means they will then be able to fire at those communists in that corner. Okay, we've got some right umpty going on here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 squads. This last squad at the back, I'm not going to allow them to fire because they just can't see. We've got the weapons squad, but also the other 2 squads as well, just rifle squads. So these are going to fire at these ones here. They're all pretty much in light cover, or at least I know it's going to be an okay shot because these are just deployed. These are going to fire, well, we'll see how the fire goes on these first of all, but they're going to use all 4 of their fire against that target first of all. These are all at close range, so this is an okay shot at close range. So the first one, I'm say they've hit with, that's 10, 12, meaning 8 hits and a pin. So I'll just mark them with a pin. If they get 2 pins, they become suppressed. So that's 8 hits on them. Killing on 6s, shocking on 4s, 5s. So let's see, no kills, but 3 shock. So that's their shock on there. Right, we've still got 2 more squads that can fire. Just a normal squad, I think. They're going to fire at the same target, just to try to get them suppressed at least until the end of the turn. So let's see, so that's double 6, not triple 6, double 6. This is the same kind of shot, another 6, so that's 18 in total. And again, this is an okay shot at close range. That is causing 11 hits and a suppression. So we now take that pin off, so we're at least suppressing them if nothing else. So we've got our 11 dice there for the hits. Take out those 4 first of all. Let's just roll those, see what it is. 6s again, 4 5s is what we're looking for. Ooh, this is more like it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 kills, 1, 2, 3 shock. We've quickly put that shock on, so that has really done some damage. And what do we say, 4 kills? So we'll take off an individual and 3 men there. So there is more shock now than men in there, so that will affect them. Now actually, they don't get awe until they get 3 times more shock than their normal action dice. Well, they are now down to 5 men, so that gives them an action dice of 2 dice. So actually, yes, they do have as much, 3 times as much shock. And at that point, they fall back 2 inches for each additional point of shock over and above the 3 times limit. Well, they're actually on the limit, so they don't fall back. So what we could do is I could then direct fire from the weapons squad into them, hopefully causing more shock, which would in turn then force them to move back 2 inches. So it's done slightly different as it is in Chain of Command, and I think in IMB shot from memory, but basically yes, it's given them something to think about. They're not going to be going very far anyway, but so yes, the weapons squad is actually going to fire at them, and these are using 5 dice because they're weapons squads, because they've got M60s. So same again though, so we've got no triple 6s rolled here, but we've got 4, 8, 12 and 6 is 18 again, and that's again another 11 shots and a suppression. They're already suppressed, so they don't get any worse than being suppressed, but that's 11 hits on them. So let's roll those 11 hits and see how many are kills, how many are shock. So we've got 2 more kills, ouch ouch, and also 2 more shock as well. So let me just put that shock on, and we take those 2 kills off. So now we're down to 3 men in that squad. So they actually don't have any dice at all. So basically they will move back. They have over 3 times, well 0, basically anything over that is going to be more than their 3 times, because 3 times 0 is 0. So they will fall back 8 times 2, 16 inches. So they're probably just going to flee back into the jungle behind them, I think. What I've actually done is I've removed that unit, so they will actually count towards VC losses towards the end of the turn. They didn't get off their tactical edge because they were on 6 shock and there were 3 men left, so they got no action dice, and the chance of them reducing that shock from 6 down to 0 is going to be pretty minimal, I think, even in the longest game anyway. So I've just taken them off. Next up, oh, civilian move. Right, okay, so all the civilians are going to move towards their nearest building, and they will move with 2d6 dice. So I'll just move those and I'll show you where they ended up. They haven't gone hugely far, but one group has regrouped over here near the big building in the centre of the village, and the other one has just moved from their paddy field towards the building over at the back there, just for a bit of safety. Really just try and get away from the shooting and the screaming. And then the next card in this turn is, oh, it's okay, it's time out. Right, so basically automatically spotted units are deployed, so I'll check if anybody is. There may be some over on the VC at least. Calculate the short range firing. There will be none, I don't think, because everybody's over 9 inches apart from the ones who have fired. Then we also use or lose reserve dice. Nobody was on a reserve dice, so that's just kind of like Overwatch basically. Remove pins and suppression, and then remove or add cards to the deck. I already have added in the big man, Free World Big Man 2, and also the second platoon, so I'll just shuffle those in. So we'll do some automatic spotting, and I'll get rid of all those pins and suppressions as well. With automatic spotting, you can only spot up to 9 inches away. These were just over it, so they're in light cover, so they wouldn't have been spotted until they were 4 inches away, but these are just out of it. So the only one that can be seen is these guys here. These are in the open. They can potentially be seen by the local forces here, so let's reveal what this blind is, and that's a dummy, so we just get rid of that. So that confused the communist at least. So what that basically means is, I know this, that has to be another platoon, and then we've also got a HQ over there as well. Still don't know what any of these are over here yet, but we'll see, I'm sure, in the fullness of time. Right, let's see what the first card of this turn is then. Okay, Communist Big Man 2. Right, that's a guy over on the end. He can either get someone to fire, or he can reduce shock on that unit. Well, I think he's just going to reduce shock actually, because he's going to hope that their card comes up before the Americans, and I'd rather take the shock off now while I can. So he's just going to do that. So he's only a level 1, so he can't do much else. So let's see what else we got. Critical wound. Now this would only be an effect if it was drawn after an American kill. There hasn't been one, so we can ignore that for now. Tianlen, which is a communist mass assault basically. He says may launch an attack with any number of infantry units that he chooses within 6 inches of each other. Participating units will automatically unpin and unsuppress. All units must be dice for movement, and the enemy must be within viable charge range. Do they go for a charge against our weapons squad? Yeah, you know me, I like charging, I like it, let's do it. Tianlen, let's go in for a charge. So yeah, they're going to use their human wave, Tianlen. So we're going to go for this unit. These 2 units here are going to try to charge the weapons squad at the front here. They basically use all their dice for movement. They've got 3 dice. So let's see, the first one in the paddock there, 13 inches. Do they make it? Let's see, 10 and 11, 12. Yes, they've made it. So we'll just pile those up, then we'll go straight into close combat in a second. And then the other unit, do they do it as well? Let's have a look. 11 inches. Yes, they can just make it as well. So another charge. Let's get them in. Right, so I'll work out the close combat and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've totted it all up. Basically, because these guys used 4 dice each for their movement, it basically give the Americans 8 straight away. They've also got jimpies. They're also in light cover. This may go bad for the communists. The communists have got 20 dice. The Americans have got 25, 27 dice. They are hitting on 5s and 6s. 5s cause shock, 6s cause kills. So what we'll do, we'll roll for the Americans first of all. This may not go very well. They really needed an extra, probably another squad in there really to even it up, but you know, there's nothing like trying something out, is there? and that's what we're doing here. So I'll roll the Americans first and pull out their hits and kills, and then we'll do the communists afterwards and pull out theirs as well. Right, so first up, the blue-eyed boys. We got 1, 2, these are the kills, 3 kills, and 1, 2, 3, 4 shock. Any more shock in there? I can't see any more. Can't see any more kills. So that's 3 kills and 4 shock. Not a huge amount, but now let's see what the Pavan gets for their roll. So here we go with their 20 dice, I think it was. Anyway, how many it was? Let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 kills, and 1, 2, and 2 shock. So 4 kills to 2 shock. The Americans have lost by 1. They're thrown back 4 inches facing the enemy. Unit may not advance in their next turn, but may fire, spot, or undertake other actions. Aggressive or stubborn troops ignore this, but they don't. So these are thrown back. They've taken 4 kills. If we get that critical wound up afterwards, then that it becomes a thing for the medic. Right, let me just sort all this out, and we'll see what the next card is. They actually did pretty good for them, to be honest. Okay, slight setback there for the Americans, but it has put the Pavan in a pretty exposed position. But let's just see what cards we get next. Medic, okay, so he can move. He doesn't need to at the moment, and he doesn't have any critically wounded men to move, so we'll just ignore that card. We'll move past it. Free World 3rd Platoon, okay, this is the black platoon, so this is the one that first appeared. Right, so they're going to do some firing, and they might come to the aid of that platoon that just took a pasting, I think. Okay, so basically what we've done is I've used 2 dice to move forward their weapon squad, so they're just outside of close combat with these lunatics, but they are going to fire at this squad over here to shoot at them. They're using 3 dice. Then we're going to fire with these are going to move forward and fire. They're going to fire over here. Then we've got this group here have moved into the paddy fields, and they're going to fire at the local forces over here as well. I've just put the dice out just so I know exactly what's happening. So first ones, these are close range. That is going to be a good shot, I think. No, it's going to be a great shot just because of how close they are. They're like, you know, just over 2 inches away from them. So we're rolling that. This is for the weapon squad, so they're rolling 3 dice. So they've got 5 on 3 dice. That is 8 hits and a suppression, so they're instantly suppressed. It's probably the time to attack them, to be honest. So those 8 hits on them. Let's roll those. 6 as the kills, and 5 causing shock. 4 5s causing shock, should I say. So that's 2 shock, 2 kills. I'll take those off and I'll put the 2 shock on. So that takes them up to 4 shock. So they're on 4 shock there. They still have 2 dice, so they don't have more shock than 3 times more shock than dice at this point. So they're okay to crack on just now, but I don't think that's going to last. To be fair, right? So we'll roll the next ones. These are firing at this group over here. So let's see what they get. This again is going to be an okay shot because they are actually in light terrain. So but it's still close range. So that's a 9 on an okay shot. Is 6 hits and they are pinned. So I'll stick that pin on them again. And then they're taking 6 hits, and same again. 4 5 shock, 6 of the kills. Well, we got 1 kill, 2 shock. So same for sames. Let's have a look. So we got. We'll take one of these guys off. I'll put another one back on in a second. There he is, and once again they're still not suffering from shock, so they're okay. I need to see if their leader has been hit actually, so we roll the dice and see if he's been hit. On a 1 he has, because I've only taken 1. He's attached to that squad. 3, no, he hasn't been hit. It's a D10 rather than a D6, like in later Lardy games. And then we also have these ones over here. These are going to fire at the local forces there, who are currently in the back. And again, this is going to be an okay shot, but it is close range. So there's that. So that's 4. The close range on an okay shot is 4 hits. So we'll give that a roll. And these are same again. 6 is the kills. 4 5 is shock. So that's 2 shock on them. Right, next card up is Free World Big Man 2. Okie dokie, that's our fella over near the weapons squad that just take a pasting. What I'm going to do with him, he's a level 3. I'm going to actually move him to the weapons squad. I'm just doing this off camera, and he's going to move with one activation. He'll get there because he moves 3d6, and then going to take off those 2 shock off the weapons squad themselves. So let's see what we got next. We got critical wound, so that doesn't count for this turn. And then the next card is the Free World blinds move. There's only 2 blinds left for the Free World, so let's see where they go to. Alright, for the Free World's blinds, all they've done is they've moved forward the platoon headquarters, deployed it. I knew where it was anyway, because I said at the start of the turn, so they deployed the big man and the foo just there. They just moved it forward, then deployed behind these sections, so they're just in a position. I've added their cards into the deck ready for the next turn, or the discard pile, and then also all they've done is move this one back to the edge of the jungle, just so it's kind of sitting there waiting for the communists to try to hopefully do a blocking action as they're moving through that village over there. Right, so our next card up then is Communist Ammo Shortage. We don't need that because they didn't roll those 3 6s in the last turn. So our next one up is the Free World 2nd Platoon. Right, there's a pinned and a suppressed communist unit over there, so I think they might actually go into close combat, you know. It's probably going to be a lot easier to wipe them out that way than it is to machine gun them. Okay, so the Americans are storming into this close combat here. So the first one, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do these ones here. So against the pinned ones, these Pavan have ended up with 5 dice against 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 for the Americans. It might, could go either way, but let's just see anyway. It's a much smaller combat, but they're just trying to smash them up really at this point. Destroy that flank if they can, and then close the bag behind them. So the Pavan have caused 2 shock, the Americans have caused 2 shock, so that is actually a let me just put that on. That goes up to 6 shock on those guys there. It's not enough to force them to run away. And then 2 shock on the Americans. There are no kills, so it's equal shock, so we fight again. So let me just work out the dice once more for this one. Alright, this time they've really reduced them down because of that shock, and also the fact that the Americans haven't moved in this turn. So it's basically, I think it was something like 9-2 in favour of the Americans. So they've caused 1 shock on the Americans, but the Americans have caused 1 kill on the Pavan, and also 2 more shock as well. Now that will take them over their amount. And also we've got that 1 kill as well. Is that on their big man? 5, no it isn't, so it's a kill on this guy here. So yeah, they're definitely they're not only going to get pushed back 4 inches anyway from losing the fight by 1 and taking another 2 hits as well. So I'll just put that 3 up on there, but then they're going to run away as well another 4 inches, so that's going to kind of send them all the way back over here to this little pig pen here. So I'll take that and I'll put their shock on in a second. And then over here, because these guys are suppressed and these only used 1 dice to move into them, they only get 2 dice this time against a 10 for the Americans. So you never know, it could go either way because it is a dice roll, but let's just see anyway. What have we got? No. That's 1, 2, at least 3 kills I can see in there. So that's 3 kills on the VC. They don't take any other hits. They've caused no hits on the Americans. They've defeated by 3. They run away 12 inch facing the rear. Add further 2 shock points per squad or weapons team, and you may only fire in their next turn. So that gives them 6, and then they're going to run away and also lose 3. So that drops them down to 4 men, meaning they're only using 1 dice. So they also have 3, so they move another 6 inches on top of the 12 inch. So they're going to run away 21 inches. So I think I'm going to disappear them into the jungle. They're going to fall away and again never come back. Okay, next card. It's a timeout card. Okay, so that was very good timing on the Americans' turn to go back into close combat and finish those off. So the pinned unit becomes unpinned. Anybody who has not been spotted can be spotted, but there isn't anybody. Everyone's too far away still. So I'll shuffle these cards up and we'll go on to the next turn. Right, let's see where we're at with the first card. Next turn. It's a Free World second platoon, so that's the one that's just been in action. I think they're going to do some more shooting, you know. I promise that there are Pavan cards in that deck. It just seems, well, you know, there's a lot of Americans on the table at the moment, so there are a lot of their cards are going to go up, obviously. So what I've done is here, these guys have moved forward 2 of their dice, and they've moved up out to the jungle. Like I said, we're trying to close the bag basically on this VC enclave at this point. So they're just going to go up there. Then they're going to fire with 2. It's going to be a close range shot, but it is only going to be an okay shot, just because there's a lot of stuff in between the 2 of them. So we're rolling on close range with an okay shot. 2 dice. That gives them a 4. A 4 on okay shot is 4 hits. So 6 as a kills. 4 up is shock. 1, 1, 1, and 2. So no hits on them. No effect from that. But they're just moving and firing. The next one's over here. They're going to do the same, and again they use 2 dice just to move a little bit further forward, staying out of range of staying out of close combat range. But again, an okay shot at close range, and at this time hitting on a 7 on an okay shot at close range is 5 hits and a pin, which is pretty useful, I think. So we'll just stick that pin down there, and then we said 5 hits on them. So those 5 hits are 3 more shock, so that is going to send them skedaddling off, isn't it? So that takes that up to 5 shock. So let me work this out, because they're not, then the other guys over here aren't going to be able to fire at them. They've currently got 2 dice, so every shock over 6 is 5, so that's going to send them 10 inches away. They do have their big man with them, so I'm going to keep those on the table, I think, but let me just check where that goes. That's going to send them skedaddling off into the jungle, so we'll keep them on this time, but I'll just get rid of them and I'll decide what I'm going to do with the... Oh yeah, I also moved up the weapons squad, but they needed all 4 dice to get further forward anyway, so these are probably going to move around into those buildings, I think. Let's just have a think about it. So these fellas have used 2 dice to move slightly forward. It's actually brought them within 4 inches of that unspotted blind at the moment, so that will be an automatic spot because they're going to use their 3rd dice to try to spot it. So it's an automatic spot. Let's see what it is. It's a dummy. So we take that off, so at least we know where 1 less unit is. They've got 1 more movement, 1 more dice for something. Don't know, is it worthwhile? There's probably not much point firing over there because it's going to be an okay shot at best. I think they're just going to hold their dice, and they're going to hold it for later, and they can use that to interrupt at any point in the turn later on, so we'll just see. Okay, next card up then is Medic. We don't need it. Well, he can move if he wants to, but or any of the medics could. They don't need to at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that. Next up then, Free World Platoon 3. Okay, so this is the other platoon. They're in a reasonably good position to start laying fire down on that local forces platoon as well now. Okay, so we've got this is the platoon, 3rd platoon. The weapons squad have moved through the paddock field, and they've basically used up 2 dice, so they've got 3 dice left over. They're going to fire at the local squad here, the local platoon here. These, as Elvis once said, are currently caught in a trap. They are now surrounded on 3 sides. These are going to fire at them as well, depending on obviously what happens over here. They just move forward. These guys over here have also just moved forward 1 dice, so these have just kind of come forward. They're going to fire as well, so I've just put the dice down by them to remind me. These ones over here have yet to do anything, so I'm going to see what happens with the rest over the firing before any of this goes in. Right, so this is going to be an okay shot. It is, I think it's just 9 inches. Yeah, just on 9 inches, so that's close range for those on an okay shot. Let's have a look. So we got 6 and 5, that's 11. That's 7 hits and a pin. So these guys aren't going very far, are they? So let's roll those 7 hits. And what we got, that's 3 shock on them. They already had 2 shock on them, so that takes them up to 5. Fortunately for them, but no kills. And then, as I say, we've still got these other ones on the edges here. So I'm going to fire with these ones here. These are going to fire at the same squad. And what are they going to hit them on? They are hitting on the 7, 8, 9. So that's 6 hits and a pin. So double pin becomes a suppressed. and we said 6 hits. So again, 6 of the kills, and they've only taken 2 shock off that, so that's put them up to 7 in fact. So they've yet to get to their ore, so they're still okay. Now we've got these ones at the front here. These are going to try to shoot the ones at the front who have yet to be hit or anything happened to them. So let's have a roll for them. So that becomes 8, 9, and this again, short range, okay shot. That is 6 hits and a pin. So they're not moving this turn, even if their card does come up. And those 6 hits on them. Same again, 6 is the kills, 4, 5 is shock, and no kills again. God, they can't hit anything with a barn door, can they? So that's 4 shock. That's on there. Right, so we've still got these ones over here. They've got 4 dice left, so what I could do is move these up here and then start firing again into the rear of those. I think I will. I'm going to use 2 dice to do it as well, just to make sure that they get there. They're taking a pip off each of these dice because they're moving through rough terrain. So we're down to 3 inches, so they can just squeeze in and advance, and then use their final 2 dice. Take their big man with them, and the medic is also attached to them as well, so he'll come with them and bring them up to there. Then they're going to fire with their final 2 dice once again on these, and it's an okay shot. 7 on an okay shot at close range is 5 hits and a pin. They're already suppressed, so it doesn't count. So once again, 6 of the kills, 4, 5 shocks. So this time they've finally got a kill and 2 shock as well. They're still on 7+, so they are just about to get awed, shock and awe. So any more shock on them, they will start falling back, or any more kills on them, they will also start falling back. Right, so next card up then is Communist 2nd Platoon. So this is the local forces. They can't really do a great deal. They can try and spot that American blind on the edge of the forest, on the edge of the jungle. I think that's probably all they're going to actually do, to be honest, because they can't fire. No, there's an American unit that they can fire at, one of them at least. The other one is suppressed, so they can't fire, but the other one is pinned, so they can fire. So they're going to return fire at the Americans. Okay, they're just within their arc of fire, 180 degrees from the front. The other ones can't fire because they're suppressed, but these ones are pinned, so they can use their 3 dice to fire, but they're taking 4 off the score anyway. Plus, it bounds over from one range bound to the next, to the next column on the right on the firing chart. So normally this will be close range and an okay shot, but it actually becomes close range and a poor shot with a -4 on the dice. So let's see, we've got 10, 13. That comes down to a 9. A 9 on an okay is 3 hits, and that's it, just 3 hits on the Americans. 6 as the kills, 4, 5 shock, and we've got 1 shock, so not particularly good fire in there. Right, so next card up is civilian move. Okay, I'll move those in a second. I'll do them before I do any more action if anything else comes up. I'll just go through it just rather than stopping and starting again. So next up is Tien Len. Right, there's nobody that is able to do that. They're either pinned or suppressed or absolutely battered at this point, so that's not happening, so we'll just move on. Didi Mao, and unfortunately there's nobody in a position to be able to do a Didi Mao, because I think they have to be out of line of sight to the enemy. So far everyone's in line of sight, so let's roll and see what timeout card. Okay, so everybody who is pinned is automatically unsuppressed. I'll move the civilians, shuffle the cards, and we'll go on to the next turn. Right, starting fresh. Okay, Didi Mao. Unfortunately for the Vietnamese, they are in line of sight, so they can't use the Didi Mao card. So we go straight on to Free World 2nd Platoon. Okay, let's see what they get up to in their turn. They move forward, these guys. Their big man has come and joined them. They've got a couple of dice left, so they're going to use those to spot some of these blinds over here, perhaps. They've also moved forward these guys into these pigsties here, and they're also going to be trying to spot some of these. Well, we'll see. They move forward their weapons squad. They only managed to get as far as here, so they don't have no dice left. But then these ones over here haven't moved, so they are going to put all their firepower into the remains of those and try and drive them off. If we can drive them off away from the tactical edge, then they're a tactical edge, then there's a good chance they will be picked up in post-operation mopping up operations. So we're going to do this and try and score military victories rather than anything else at this point, I think. Trying to find those rice caches might be a bit difficult, but anyway, we're just, like I say, closing that bag on these Vietnamese. So first ones, they are firing. This is close range. It's also an okay shot because they're in jungle, so I'm going to go with that. So we've got 5, 10, 16 on an okay shot at close range is 10 hits and a suppression. So let's just throw that suppression down there, and then they're 10 hits. Roll 6s, kills, 4, 5 shock, another kill, and 1, 2, 3, 4 shock this time. So that is going to drive them off. Is that kill on the big man? A 1, and it is. 6, no it isn't. So it's another guy killed out of those. That drops them down to 4 men, meaning they currently have 1 dice. So God, yes, they are running. They're running like the wind. So I'm going to take those off. They have disappeared off the table. They've gone very far away. Okay, so we're going to be going in for the spotting over here. So the first one's over here. These are going to try and spot this blind. These ones are then going to try and spot that blind. Well, we'll see if we spot that one. So they've got 2 dice left for their actions. They're going to use 1 action, obviously, to spot. They're going to use the other action to add a +1 onto that. So we'll just go through the spotting here. So the spotter is... if the target is stationary and not firing, yes it is, it hasn't moved for a while, so that's a -1. We're starting, first of all, let me just tell you, we're starting in light terrain between 4 and 9 inches away. We're starting with a 5. The target is stationary, so that becomes a 6. The target is local to the area, -1, so that becomes a 7. Target's got good field craft, yeah, so that becomes an 8. And that's it on that side, but they are using that additional dice to add on a 1, so it actually comes down to 7 up. So let's roll for the first squad. 5, no, they can't see a thing, and then we'll try with the other ones, and it's going to be the same for those as well. So let's see, 7 up, and they're going to try to spot this same one that just spotted there. So 8, yes, they have spotted it. So we turn that one over, and it's a dummy. So we're getting rid of those communist blinds, at least, if nothing else. Rightio, right, first one up is communist ammo shortage. They don't need that because they haven't fired. So then we've got the Free World Big Man 3. So this, I think this is this guy down here actually. Let's just check. Yes, there he is. So he has got 3 activations, so you could potentially get 3 sections firing. So this guy has basically got the weapons team to move forward. They're going to fire with 3d6 into these. Then we're going to got 4 more dice on each of these units. They're also going to try, well, depends on what happens, we're going to try and shoot into those, or we might shoot into the other unit as well. So first up, this is an okay shot, and again this is close range, so this is an okay shot because they're kicking about in the paddy fields. They are taking some hammer. They've not really gone forward, have they? So this is the weapons team, so we've got 8 on an okay shot. In close range is 6 hits and pinned again. These fellas just cannot stop being pinned, can they? So those 6 hits on them. Once again, 6 is the kills, 4, 5 is shock. So that's 3 more shock onto them. So that takes them to 12. So that takes them, they currently have 3 dice, but they now have 12 shock. So 3 times 3 is 9, so they are actually 3 over on their shock. So they are going to run away 6 inches, and obviously they're going to move as far away from the enemy as possible. So they're going to come down here, taking their pin token with them, and they are dashing off. So that's a good result there for the first firing. So now the other 2 squads are going to turn their attention to this squad over here. So same again, it's close range and also an okay shot, I think. So we'll start with the first one here. Any leftover, if anything happens from this, anything left over, we'll probably try to spot some of those blinds over there. But anyway, let's see what we got. We got 10, 14 on an okay shot. That is 9 hits and a suppression as well. So they're suppressed, and they are also taking those 9 hits as well. Let's see what happens to them. 6 of the kills. This time, ooh, they've taken 4 kills and 4 kills and also 4 shock on top of the shock they've got. So we'll take 1, 2, 3, 4 off there, and then stick that shock on as well. They've already got 4, so that's going to take them up to 8. Does that make them run away as well? Let's just check. Yes, so they are actually now 5 above their limit because they are down to 1 dice of action because there's only 4 of them. So they're actually 5 above their business, so they are going to run as far away as they can over here, taking that suppression with them. So that has smashed that flank up, hasn't it? I guess this is what it's all about, isn't it? American firepower, really. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try and spot some of these blinds here, because if they can force them off the non-tactical edge, it's still military victory. So we're going to look at these guys here. This blind is 9 inches away. Well, I don't know. Let's just go through it and see what the actual final number is. So it's 9 inches away. It's in light terrain, so it needs a 5 up anyway to spot. The target's stationary and he's not firing, so that's -1, so that becomes 6. It's local, that becomes 7. It has good field craft, that becomes an 8. And so it's an 8 up at the moment, so we could use up to 3 dice to reduce that down to 5, or I could have 4 goes at it. This is a tricky thing. Where do you use those dice and reduce it down? Is it better to do 1 roll of a 5 up, or is it better to do potentially 4 rolls of 8 up? Let's go with 4 rolls of 8 up, I think. So the first spot, just see, no. So the second one, let's see, an 8. So they have spotters. They've still got 2 left over, so they can use those. And that is the company headquarters. So I'll just get them on the table. So they're in light terrain. That's the company. That's the commissar and also the leader himself as well. So what do we do with the other 2 dice? Let me just have a think. You know what they're going to do? They're going to put 2 more dice of firing into these ones over here, because they have taken quite a lot of shock, but they haven't taken that many kills. It's a medium range, and it's going to be effective range, and it's just going to be an okay shot. They're just going to use 2 dice. I'm not doing any more spotting. There's only 3 blinds left, so we can spot those with the other blinds over there. So 6. Don't think that's going to do a huge amount. Well, actually, it's 3 hits. 3 hits on those, and again, any more shock on them, that's going to make them run away. They're already on 12, or every kills, perhaps that might do. So it's a kill and a shock. So yeah, so that will make them run once again. So they're down to 6 men, which means they have 2 action dice, meaning that anything over 6 shock is going to make them run away. They've got 7 shock over 6, maths, eh? So basically times that by 2, so they're going to run away 14 inches. Let me just check how far away that is. I think that's really going to get them almost to the edge of the game table and probably disperse them, I think, at this point. So I'm just going to take that unit off once again. That's going to be another one. It's going to be very difficult for the VC player to bring down their shock to any kind of usable movement, and the US can just sweep through at some point. So I'll take them off, and it's another section, another squad gone. Okay, let's see what card we're up next. Is a medic. Not useful because they haven't taken any casualties in the last turn. And then timeout. Right, so that ends a turn. I'll just clear off everybody, give these a shuffle, and then we'll pile back into the next turn. Okay, first card up for this turn is the Free World Artillery Support. They didn't call it in with a foo before because he's not actually, I can't remember if his card came up or not, but no, so they don't have it, so that doesn't count. It's a Big World, Free World Big Man, Free World Big Man 3. So again, same fella. It is this fella over here. So yeah, there's number 3. So he's a level 3, so he can again get 3 of his squads moving, I think, or firing. Okay, so he's used his 3 activations to get the weapons team move forward. They are going to then blast at these guys again, try to just, finish them off, scatter them away. Then we've got these ones over here. Now they could fire at the big man and the commissar. I don't know if it's worth it. They could give it a go, but they might probably just try to spot what's left over there of those those 3 blinds. So the first one, these are definitely going to be firing at those guys anyway. Now check, they're just at effective range, they're just over 9 inch. They're firing with 3 dice at an okay shot. This once again they're in light cover pretty much. So that gives them 9 on an okay shot. 3, that is 3 hits still. Could kill, could shock. Let's have a look. That's a kill and a shock, so we'll take that off. Then that gives them another shock, so they are now down to 0 action dice. So what that means is they now have obviously 3 times more than that, so they're going to be running away 9 inches, double that, because for every shock over, they double, they move 2 inches, so that's 18 inch. They are gone. They're going to scatter off that table edge, so I'm just going to take them off. That's literally wiped out that local force platoon, and they barely got a chance to do anything, did they? They were just pinned from the start. Proper hunter-killer mission this has been. So again, once I said I could fire at the big man and the commissar with the other teams, or could they spot? Yeah, let's cut them down, you know. We can see them. So the first ones are firing. They're just in close range. It's once again going to be an okay shot. Let's just see what we get. 4 for the first ones is 4 hits. So they're looking for kills on these. If they get any kills, they will transfer into hits on the big men. So let's hope, well, 1 has been hit, so that's a kill. And so that, let's see which one it is. 1 to 3, it's the big man. 4 to 6, it's the commissar. 1 to 3, so it's a 2, so it's the big man himself, platoon leader. He has been hit. So now we roll. If he rolls a 1 to a 3, he's killed. If he rolls a 4 to a 6, he is seriously wounded and will require Cassivac. But because he's Vietnamese, he doesn't get Cassivac. So he, I think, pretty much he's out, but he might be seriously wounded. So let's just see what happens. 4, yes, he is seriously wounded, so he's going to be pretty much out of the game anyway. But I'll leave him on there just to show that he's been shot up. And then we've also got, because he could potentially be captured, and then we've got the other ones over here. These are firing. They're going to fire at those two again, and same again. So we're hitting with a 5 there. This is short range up to 9 inch, so that's a 4 hits. So once again, 6s are going to be hits on them guys, and again it's another 1 hit on them. So which one is it? 1 to 3 the big man, 4 to 6 the commissar. It's the commissar this time, and as what has happened to him, same again. 1 to 3 he is he's killed. 4 to 6 actually it's just she is wounded. 4 to 6, so they are both wounded. So there's a bit of a prize there for the Americans if they can get in and capture both of them. Right, okay, so first one, next card should I say, is the Free World's Blinds move. Right, this is going to be, there's only 1 blind left, so I think what it's going to deploy, and then it's going to actually hold on to its dice for later in the turn. Don't want to spot with it just yet, or do I? No. We'll think, let me think. So what I've done is I've deployed on the blind over here, so the last and third final platoon for the Americans has come out. So basically we're going to try to cut off these escape routes here and also on the back as well. But before they do anything, rather than wasting lots of fire at the commissar and the leader, they're going to actually try to spot these final 3 blinds over here. I've worked it out. This one started at 9, it's gone up to 12 because of various things, but it's going to be the weapons platoon, and they're going to use all 3 of their extra spotting, their extra action dice to bring that back down to 9 up. So we're going to start with the weapons platoon. So let's see, 9 up, no, 6. So we'll start with our next platoon over here. They're doing the same, so 9 up. Double 1, no, they don't see anything. The next one over here, same again, 9 up. Yes, they've spotted it. So now we reveal it. Okay, that is platoon 1 of the department. So I'll put those guys on. We've still got the other one over here. Do they want to do some spotting, or do they probably want to do some firing, I think? Okay, that's them on the table here, the platoon, trying to get across these paddy fields. So we're going to use this last squad over here. They're going to use all 4 of their firing dice to fire at them. It is a again, it's an okay shot because of them being in light cover, and it is an effective range shot, so it may not do a huge amount, but at least we're putting some rounds on them. So that's 10, 14 in total. on an OK shot is 5 hits, and he's pinned them at least, so it stopped them moving, stopped them laughing in church. Then we've got 5 hits on them, so 6 of the kills, 4 5 is shock. So we've got 1 2 3 shock. That is cocked, so I'm going to re-roll it. Let's have a look. 4, so that's actually 4 shock on them already. So taking the hits. Right, next card. Free World Platoon 2. So this is the one that activated previously. So they've only got one section that can actually fire, or one squad that can fire. But I think they'll just move them up and again, so lay down some rounds. So these guys are basically shuffled across the paddy field, use 2 dice to get there, and they're firing at the ones that are already pinned. Let's just, bloody hell, 6 and 6, so that's 12 on, it's an effective range, an OK shot. It's the best they could have had. That is 4 hits and pinned, so that has suppressed them as well because they were already pinned anyway, so take that off. And then we've got those 4 hits, and again 6s are kills. Let's see, that's just 3 shock, so that does take them up to 7 shock, which is not good. Right, what's our next card then? Okay, so we have critical wound. The Americans doesn't count because they haven't taken a casualty. Communist ammunition shortage, they haven't fired, so it doesn't count. Next up, civilians move. I'm not going to move the civilians, they're around the buildings, so they're not really going to move any further at the moment. They might move them away from the firing, but apart from that. Communist second platoon, that no longer exists, so we'll take that out. Then we have Communist Big Bad 2, he no longer exists, so we'll take him out as well. And Communist third platoon, that no longer exists, so we'll take that out of the deck. It's getting the deck down. Oh, Tien Len. Okay, so is this going to be a Communist attack? This is player may launch an attack with any number of infantry units that are within 6 inches of each other, so that's actually all of that platoon up there. Participating units will automatically unpin and unsuppress. All dice must be, they must all be used for movement. So, do you know what? They need to break through that American line, and this could be a way of doing it. If they hit the weapons squad, or even the squad on the side, or do they wait? Oh, this is hard. They need to break. I don't know what to do here. They do need to break through that line. And is it worthwhile doing it, or is it suicidal? Because they'll get shot to pieces if they fail it. And otherwise their card could come up next turn for them to move and to then infiltrate and get past. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. It may be crazy. Free World Foo. He can't actually see anything because there's too much stuff in front of him at this point, so I'll leave him where he is. And then the Free World third platoon. Okay, so that's the other one as well. So that's our other platoon. I'm just going to move those around, probably do some spotting I think as well up in that northern edge. So what I've done with this platoon is basically I put the weapons squad out here on the road to block it, and also the other ones there on the edge of the jungle as well to block any dispersal from over there. Meanwhile, the other 2 units over here are going to try and spot these 2 final blinds of the NVA. So the first one is the closest one. It is in light terrain, but it is 9 inches away, so that's going to be starting with a 5. It hasn't moved, so that becomes a 6. It's local to the area, that becomes a 7. It is also, it's got good field craft, so that becomes an 8. Is there anything else? I don't think so. So they're actually, I'm going to try 4 times on an 8 using the first squad. So the first roll, no. Second roll, oh, snake eyes, that's an 8, so they have spotted it, so they've still got 2 dice left to use up, so I'm just going to put those dice there to remind me. And then the other one's still got 4, so what is it? It is, oh, it's a dummy, so that is the final dummy, so we know what the last one is at least. So they are going to try to spot that as well, but that is now in the next range band, so that becomes a 9. It hasn't moved. It is also stationary. Sorry, it was stationary and not firing. That means hasn't moved. It's local and it's got good field craft, so that takes up to 12. So this time they're going to spend No, the other unit is going to do this, and they're going to spend all of their 3 to bring that back down to a 9 to spot. So that's probably the best they can get at this point. 4, no, they haven't spotted anything. So the other ones have got 2 left. So they're going to try it, and they're going to roll with a -1. So 11 up. And 10. Oh, so close, but they just haven't spotted it. Okay, let's have a look at the next card is timeout. Okay, so anybody who's pinned and suppressed is no longer pinned or suppressed. That's only the Pavan unit that's in the centre. I don't know if it was a mistake not doing that human wave attack. Right, first card, next turn, is the Free World First Platoon. That's the one that's just appeared, actually, so they're in a very good position to start cutting up those Pavan, aren't they? So yeah, this is exactly what they're going to do. They're just going to start mowing them down. So we'll start with these guys over here first of all, using all 4 dice at that front unit. These are at effective range. It's an okay shot once again. So that's 10, 15, that's 5 hits and a pin. So they've only just taken off that pin. That's another 5 hits on them though. So same again, 6s kills, 4, 5 shock. So we've taken 1 kill and also 2 more shock as well. So that puts them up. So does that change anything? No, they're still on 3 dice. So they need over 9 shock, 1 more shock or 1 more kill, and that will be enough to start them running away. So we're going to go on to the next squad over here, another automatic rifle squad. Let's see, they're hitting, same again, 8 and 5 is 13. I say same again, it's the effective range, so that's 4 more hits and another pin, so that will then suppress them. Let's just put that down there. And so 4 hits on them again, so we're looking for shock or kills. 1 shock, that's enough to push them back 2 inches, so I'll just shove them back a little bit here. It's not enough, it's kind of stopped them, made them think for a second, so let's push them back there. Then we've got our next squad. This is a weapons squad, so they get an extra d6 in for firing. So let's see what happens with this one. So we've got 10, 12, and let me re-roll that, that was cocked. And another 1. It was actually cocked, it was almost on a 6. So that's 8, 9, 10, 12. So that's 4 hits and another pin. So the pin doesn't count because they're already suppressed. But they have taken 4 more shock. So that's going to put their shock up to 12, 14 in total. They currently have 3 dice, so that's 9, so that's 5 inches over, so that means they will run away 10 inches. So where does that take them? Let's see, that's just on the other side of the river, which is not good because it means that they are now falling back towards the squads over there that are already over there. So I'll just put these out of the way because our next squad is then going to fire at that final squad of Pavan here in the centre here, and these are just using 4 dice. Same again, okay shots at effective range. Just mow them down. 10, 16, 19, 19 on the dice is 6 hits and a suppression. This is a proper operation, mop-up operation. Right, so how many hits? Nothing actually, not a single one, but they are suppressed. Our next card up then is Free World Second Platoon. Couldn't have been better. That is basically, that's going to hammer that unit that's just run away basically. Poor them. Alright, we've got these ones here. These are all just going to blast away at them. So we're starting with this first one down there. They're just going to use their 4 dice to hammer into them. Take 3 off because of their shock, but that's 6, 7 effective range, and it's an okay shot. That is 3 hits on that Pavan unit again. Let's see how much more they take. 1 more shock, so that's going to make them run away 14 inches, and they are going to run into the woods and into the jungle, should I say. I'm going to run through the jungle, and once again I'm actually going to take them off because they are just going to disperse into that jungle, and that's not their, fortunately for them, that's not their tactical edge, is it? And all I'm doing with the rest of this platoon is bringing them forward and keeping 1 back just to guard that entrance exit to the jungle, and the others are just going to move forward. I don't know if it's worthwhile even bothering to spot that blind at this point. I think this game is almost over, but let's play through to the next timeout card at least. So the next card up is Communist Blinds Move. Right, they are getting out of dodge. They are going to go and they're just going to exit that table edge, I think. So let's just see how far they go. I'll just quickly roll for it here. They've actually gone 7, 8, 9, 10 inches, which doesn't take them off the table, but it almost does. So I'll just move that in a second. Next up, timeout. Okay, so that ends the turn anyway. Okay, let's play a little bit longer. There's still significant communist forces on the table, so let's just see what happens anyway. So, start of the new turn. It's a Communist Blinds Move, right? So they're gonna hightail it off. So I'm gonna roll them. I'll roll them here. So what we got there? I've got 6, 9, 12. Yeah, they're gone. So they've disappeared off the table because they're not stupid. That was a support platoon, by the way. There's a critical wound. There's been no casualties on the US side. Dust off, don't need it, no critical wounds. Communist first platoon. Okay, so these are going to actually use all of their dice as well to disappear off. So let's see, or try to disappear off that table edge. Let's see how far they get. So having rolled for their movement, one of them, the blind disappeared, but then also one of the squads managed to get off. The other one has just got to about 3 inches off the edge of the table, but it's pretty much gone, isn't it, at this point? I don't think the Americans are going to be able to chase it down. But anyway, let's carry on and see what we get for our next card. Alright, next up is Free World 2nd Platoon. Okay, so these are actually in a very good position to capture the Commissar and that officer. And let's see if they do it. So the platoon have basically moved out and moved across the paddy fields. They've captured the not only the big man, but also the Commissar as well. An absolute brilliant prize, I think, for them. But let's just see what the next few cards hold for us. Alright, next up, Civilian Move. They're not really going to move anywhere at this point. They're surrounded by Americans. Communist Big Man 1, he's already captured, so that's gone. Free World First Platoon, I'm not going to move them. There's not much point really, is there? And next up, oh, timeout, there we go. So that ends that turn, and I'm going to end the game there, to be perfectly honest. The Communists, the Pavan cannot get back on top with this one. So I'll show you the sit rep at the end of the game. So here's the table at the end of the game. As I say, that platoon of US moved into the centre. The Pavan unit is still running away at the back end there. You can probably just see them on the edge of the table. We've got the other US platoon is pretty much blocked off any exit from the village over here, and also down there as well. They're completely boxed the place in and are doing thing. These guys are still suffering from some shock. But they could get their big man to come over and remove all that if they needed to. They didn't really need the food, they didn't need the medics, they didn't need the takeoff. They lost 4 men in total. I'm not going to calculate how many VC and how many Pavan were lost in the mopping up operations. You can do if you want to, but I'm not going to, because this was a complete and utter rollover by the US forces. Now, I guess that is a lessons learned. Do not have the Pavan out in the open trying to get around. What I probably should have done is snuck them round the corners or round the edges of the table. But I think the US getting down here pretty early on was a good move, really, just to try to stop them and to to stop that exit from the table. I mean, in a normal game, you wouldn't know which is the tactical edge for the US, so it would make it a lot harder for you to actually decide which edge you're going to patrol and stop. But overall, I thought that was a fantastic game. I hope you really enjoyed it. I certainly did. It's similar enough, like I Am Me Shot Mum, but feels Vietnam-like, and that's exactly what I wanted from it. This has been a great experience, and I'm looking forward to playing some more of this in the future, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. I will have made tons of mistakes because it was the first time playing it ever. I've not even tried it, but yeah, it's certainly so I'm sure I've made mistakes, and when I go through the edits I'm sure I'll find them myself anyway. But That said, this was a great game and I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and if you have, please do, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Also check out Patreon and also channel memberships as well, because all the money goes back into making more videos like this for you in the future. And I will see you in the next Storm of Steel video.